Happy April, everybody. It's the first episode of the month. Thank you so much for joining the Musari show. Before we get started, as always, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It's a great and free way of helping us spread our content. If you are tuning in from Spotify, be sure to drop a 5-star rating as well as drop a comment. It's a free way of helping us spread our content. I'm really excited again, as I always say, to introduce today's guest of the episode. So today's guest is someone who is also passionate about supporting upcoming businesses, specifically with sales, valuation, and even exit strategies, as well as launching the company, right? And this person also has an entity that supports businesses with financial crunches, in other words, with access to funding, both traditional finance and also unconventional. And this person also has a following of over 7,000, massive following due to the value add that he does provide to the entrepreneurial community. So, ladies and gentlemen, do join me in welcoming Jimmy Rios. Jimmy, great to have you on.
I appreciate you having me. This is exciting.
No, it's awesome, awesome. So, tell us a bit about your journey at Jimmy Rios. I'm really excited to hear about your story in supporting businesses right up to their exits.
Sure. No, I appreciate you, man. I take great pride in doing what I do. I've been doing this for about 25 years as an entrepreneur and building my business, the systems. I mean, I took a lot of twists and turns, made a lot of mistakes over 25 years. Obviously, following the Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant, where I was, working for, some pretty big banks and kind of observing what I wanted to do for the community was different, and
Mhm.
the only way that I was going to be able to do it was doing it on my own. I started, by becoming self-employed, and then ultimately working my way inside of a system and building a system, and now being able to give back and teaching how to be able to build that, because many times as solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, we live inside of a world where we think we got it made, but we really don't.
Mhm.
And so I studied that model and learned from a lot of my mistakes to be able to put something together that is what we call blue sky.
Yeah.
Literally in its own right, in the space of what we do to help businesses. But what I found was it doesn't only just help the business; it also helps the individual on a personal level. So that's win-win, and we'll get more in detail on that. But yeah, I think as a business owner now, I've been able to spin my wings with my wife and having her become a business owner, and now it's a family affair. Now we're doing it as a family, supporting each other, and really being an example to our kids, so they can see that what is possible out there. I let them, obviously go for their passion and their dreams, but they have a lot to go off of now to look at as an example.
I must say that's a very strong kickstart, and I really love that because you started off by touching on the pain point of a lot of entrepreneurs and even business owners, right? Which is the difference between being self-employed and being a legit entrepreneur and owning a business, right?
Right.
Robert Kiyosaki talks about that, the different quadrants, going from self-employed to being a business owner. Even Dave Ramsey, apart from like the advice, personal finance advice he gives on personal finance to middle-class Americans, he also does have the entree leadership, and he talks about the treadmill, like how being self-employed is almost like a treadmill. It's like you're running so fast, but you're just stuck in the same place because
Yeah.
you're so consumed with the business. How is graduating from that to business owner been? Because I'm sure that a lot of people can benefit from your story. Um,
Well, I think it's so important to understand that when we're stuck in the business, we're in the self-employed quadrant, right, where we basically own a job, right? Me being the type of person that I am, I love to travel. I love to 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 have experiences in life, right? Life shouldn't be just work.
mm,
I mean, there has to be a balance, yes, but I think as an entrepreneur, we lose the sight of that part. There's so many experiences that go with living life. And I think I was losing a piece of myself
yeah.
in the entrepreneurial journey, right? And trying to seek these things that I felt were going to make me whole. And
Yeah.
they were burying me instead of making me higher, I was going lower. And it took me losing everything and basically breaking it down and starting over and putting it back together, right?
Mm.
Super gluing it, getting people involved to show me better ways. My mindset had to change in going back in because fear is a very powerful thing. And the fear of going back into something when you already failed is very daunting, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give people is if you're in that realm and you're kind of in a circle, going in circles, you need to take a step back and start analyzing what kind of help do you need, because I became an advisor from years of getting help, right, and seeing what worked and what didn't. But I didn't become an advisor overnight, and I think now I can help people because I've identified so many weaknesses and so many areas that need developed. When somebody comes to me and says, you know, I have a business idea, I want to do this, I want to do, and I say, whoa, stop, you know, slow down, hit the gas, hit the. We got to go slow to go fast,
Yeah.
of going fast and then going backwards, because that's what a lot of business owners do is they're very good at their technically, they're good at what they do, service or whatever they provide, but they don't have a clue of all the different intricate puzzle pieces that need to be put together first
Yeah.
before we can jump into selling and doing the service and all these things that we want to do. We got to look at the blueprint for success first, and being very conscientious that if I have to stay in my day job for a while so I can put this blueprint together, then that's what has to be done. That's part of the growth process. I
Mm.
that way originally. I went in like I'm talking about and head first into being very service and process oriented, but not looking at the back end picture of what could happen and
Mm.
what, right? And then when it happened to me a couple times in the .com bust, the real estate bust, and recently with the pandemic, right? All these little adjustments that one has to make. By
Yeah.
the time I got to the pandemic, though, by that time I had already been through so much that I put things in place that my blueprint had told me I needed to put in place,
Mm.
right? So these are things that people don't think about, because when we start doing business, we're go. We're like we want to go sell, we want to go, and we don't think of all the intricate pieces behind the scenes. So now I tell people, look, I love it. I love the enthusiasm, but we need to look at a bigger picture than this. And as I start drawing it out, visualizing so they can see what I'm talking about, they leave that meeting sometimes not probably what they wanted to hear, but definitely with a better pathway than what they have,
Yeah.
right? That says a lot.
You said multiple really interesting things. So one of them being, the whole thing of like, when you're self-employed, you almost didn't get to enjoy your life. There's this whole notion that when you get into entrepreneurship, obviously it is hard work, but to what extent would you say it's really about hard work versus working smart? Your journey.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like, let's use an analogy, right? Of a duck, right? A duck is underwater and he could be swinging his legs, right? Really hard and trying to get somewhere. But if there's no pathway, he can keep going in circles, right?
Mm.
And that's working hard, right? You're not you're in a lake and you're not really going anywhere, right? But if there's a pathway, if there's a true direct motion of where it needs to go, right? And we set this duck into that motion and going down that right path, that motion of using his 2 feet to get there is going to get them there more efficiently, quicker, and better than just working hard and trying to get, you know, in this. And I think when we're ducks in our ponds, unbeknownst, I think we're unconsciously swinging and we think, well, I did 100 calls and I did this and I just can't get going and nobody will lend me money, and you know, coming up with all kinds of excuses, right? When sometimes we might just need to call somebody to give us a different perspective,
Yeah.
put on a different pair of eyes or glasses to tell you, look, this is what I see, right?
Mm.
We don't like to look in the mirror, man. I mean, that's just real. I am very real. That's what
Fact.
I'm real. If we look in the mirror and I say, I'm not feeling good about myself. I think I need to lose like 40 pounds, right? You know that already, you know? Like, what is the trick to losing weight, right? They're going to tell you, you got to eat right, you got to do this, you got to go to the gym, you got to start putting some work in. But then doing and following a plan of action that is meticulous, consistent, strenuous, right? You got to make the body work, you got to sweat, you know? Then you start seeing little results, little compound results, daily, weekly. A month, you lost 1 or 2 pounds. Hey, but by 6 months, you lost 10 pounds, 12 pounds, right? Where are you now 6 months later? Why are we any different in our business?
Yeah.
Why complacency and thinking that because we work hard, we put 8, 10 hours a day, that's working hard. Where do the efficiencies come in so that we can still work hard, but maybe do it over 5, 6, 8 hours instead of 10, 12 hours,
Mm.
right? Because we don't have a different perspective to do it. We make excuses for why we don't, right? The
Yeah.
easy thing is to make excuses, right? So I always say, let's stop. Stop the excuses. Let's look in the mirror. Let's find a pathway. Let's get real, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Those are really inspiring words. And one thing that people grapple with is a sense of purpose because people are motivated by different things. So, you find that there's so many people who work in the corporate world. You do find people that enjoy it, that do see purpose in it, and they eventually rise up the ladder. You find people that are like comfortable where they are, they just want to be in the same kind of role. And then you find people that are kind of fed up with the corporate world and want to get out. And
Yeah,
obviously life in this country is not cheap, but
right.
they do aspire to like own their own businesses. And some of them do have side businesses, but it takes time to really take off. And it's a frustrating process because some people want that financial freedom so badly, but they don't have it. So,
Right.
what word of encouragement or what advice would you give to someone who is in the corporate world? Because I like how you highlighted that having a day job and having your dream on the side is part of the process. What would you say to someone in
Sure.
that situation?
So listen, I mean, I never knock anybody in corporate, anybody that has found success in that 9 to 5 arena. I think, if you do well in that arena, and that's great. There are pluses to working inside of that world, right? You work 9 to 5, you're done, you leave your work there, you don't, there's pluses, right? But for those like us, right, there's a different set of people, right, that this is cut out for. Not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur,
Mm,
right? I need to highlight that because as much as I want to tell somebody if it's not in your DNA, right, to really get this going, it doesn't mean you can't. There's been changes, right? There's people that will fall into something, but sometimes it's just not meant to be, right?
mm,
Your destiny doesn't cut you out for that, and that's okay. You're gonna just be okay doing your 9 to 5. I'm talking about the guys out there that have decided they want to do this for the long haul,
yeah.
right? I went back to corporate multiple times in my journey over 25 years, but I never lost my vision and my passion. So I
Mm,
still kept my business going in some form or fashion. That meant I got off at 5. I was working on my business from 6 to 10, right?
yeah.
I can't remember. It was just recently where they were talking about that, where one of them, I think he was a rapper. He was talking about he never gave up on his passion, his dream. Is just to be able to get there, he had to go through some different path.
Mm,
And work 9 to 5, that was his day job, and then he was in his passion the rest of the time and weekends and whatever. So at that point, you sacrifice all these other things, what I call noise, right? Until you get to where you want to go,
yeah.
right? Because I do love to travel, I love to do things, but I didn't do those things when I was hustling and trying to make my business grow. I was having to sacrifice a lot of those things, time with my family, and but I knew that if I kept going, I would get there sooner than later. If I
Mm,
just stopped, I would have what we call golden handcuffs, right? I would be working for somebody else, making their dream happen, right? And I would be stuck with the golden handcuffs. Maybe I got paid well. Maybe I had my 2 weeks of vacation, right? But that's it. And I was like aspiring to do more. What if I could build a system where I could take months, weeks, because my system is self-sustaining, where I can take the liberty to still work on my business, not in my business.
yeah.
Right now, I have the pleasures of saying I worked really hard, right, to get to the tip of this iceberg, but now I'm still enjoying the fruits of my labor and watching my business grow. But I put some things in place to make that happen,
Yeah.
right? People need to be conscientious that there are going to be sacrifices. If you want this life, if you want to do this, that you're going to take some stumbles, right? Be ready for it, right? And I don't say win or lose. I don't use lose in my vernacular in anything that I do. I
Mm,
say win or learn,
yeah.
right? There's no losing because even in what a perceived loss is, it's an opportunity to learn from that. So if you change the vernacular to learn versus lose, you always win. You're
Yeah.
always winning, right? So a step back is just a step back. It means I step back to go around, right? I might not be going where I need to go. But there's a book called Failing Forward, right? Where if you fail, you're failing, but you're failing forward. It means you get up and you keep going, right? And you find ways to pivot around the situation, learn from it, get the help you need so you don't make those mistakes again, and keep rising. Darren Hardy wrote The Compound Effect, and every day it's about compounding on a little bit every day on
Yeah.
everything we do: love, family, relationships, spirituality, right? There's so many more things than just money. Money,
Mm.
currency, money can do things, but when you have all these other things compounding, you get so much more out of it.
No, you said a whole lot. You just threw a whole lot of gems. It's even hard to pick. But one of the gems that I really loved was you mentioned that not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur, right? So I've heard different theories on that. Obviously, that's not it's not the intent's not to debate on that. So what would you say? Let's say you're someone who's in the corporate space and you're considering setting up a side hustle for a start to eventually branch out. What would
Yes.
you say are the checklists? Let's say a checklist of like
Yeah.
um, three, let's say,
Three
characteristics
things.
or
The three
traits.
must haves. Let's talk about that. So, three must haves. Number one, you have to build a
Yeah,
plan of action, right? You have to have a map of where you want to go, right?
yeah,
Um, we call those, what some people call it SMART goals, but to me, it's just where do you want to go? What time frame, right? That dovetails into the step number two, which is you need to have a projection of costs and budgets for the things that you want to do inside of your plan,
mm,
right? I'm going to build a house. I'm going to put this blueprint together. Well, it's going to cost me money to get all these pieces of the pie put together to make it happen. So let's get realistic. Let's take the time to find out what those numbers are, right? And to make it happen. And
mm,
I think you need to really understand finances and credit. All
yeah,
right. Two biggest components that I specialize in are the biggest things that have derailed even successful companies is in the lack of being able to utilize structures, in
mm,
debt structures and investment structures, assets versus liabilities. How do you do all this while you're trying to build your business? Because believe it or not, it's gonna overlap. You're gonna start having to dip into your money's credit, people, investors, and the more that you learn on how to finagle those two terms, finance and planning your budget and all these costs, the better it's going to be for you because it's not a surprise, right?
mm,
How many times did I have to go back and figure out how I'm going to come up with X amount of money because I needed this or I needed that, or I got an order and I can't fulfill that order because I don't have the machinery to meet that demand, and
Yeah.
it's opportunity cost. These things happen every single day with businesses that
Mm.
because they didn't focus on those three things from the get go. And so I think when we say go slow to go slow in the planning process and get your stuff organized. Because if you want to jump ship from a corporate or even a 9 to 5, you need to be able to find a way to replenish that income that you were originally used to making. Right? If you
Mm.
were recently making X amount every 2 weeks, like clockwork, and good, bad, or indifferent, you modeled your lifestyle around that. So if you're gonna make a move and you don't want to lose your family and all the things that can go with a domino effect of loss, like happened to me, then you're gonna take the things that I tell you, not because I read it in a book somewhere, it's because I lived it and I
Yeah.
went through that. When you go through that, you will never forget it and you'll do things differently second time around. So if you know that ahead of time, then be prepared for it. Let's start working on these things. It might take you a little longer, but it's well worth the wait.
No, I really love that. Um, and one interesting thing about your profile is you've helped a lot of businesses achieve their exit, right? Uh,
Yeah,
and that's something a lot of people aspire to do. You know, build a business until the valuation is a few hundred or maybe a few $1 million, and eventually exit, enjoy their lives a little bit, or maybe some want to invest in some other venture.
right.
Tell us about some success stories in that space. That would be lovely to hear.
Well, number one, and this is probably the biggest thing I've done consistently, is when we start talking to these businesses about exit strategies, the number one thing that people don't realize is that the factor that is going to determine the value of your exit is based on your actual profit numbers, right? So what happens with most companies? They eliminate as much money from their balance sheet so that they don't have to pay the IRS, right? So they cut. They up on the top, it showed they made $2 million in sales, right? But when they go back down to it, they dropped it so low, it's like 30,000, right? Net. Like what? How you can't live on 30,000 net, right? Now, where I'm going with this is by structuring it properly, getting the numbers to showcase the way they need to, because those numbers are real. It's just they're allocated based on fear, not on truth, right?
Mm.
If we can form truths around and strategies around the fear factor, which is the IRS, right? Then we can start showing what truly this business is worth based on the numbers, right? So I get very good at recommending strategy, tax strategy, to be able to put those numbers where they need to be first, right? To get the valuation where it needs to be, right? And that's a very big thing because people don't think like that. People will come and try to sell a business out of necessity, right? They're going through a divorce, medical issue. These are some of the reasons why people exit, right? But
Mm.
sometimes it's not that. Sometimes you feel that you want to do something else, right?
Yeah.
Just because a CPA has the designation as a CPA doesn't make him the expert witness to what it should be with regards to structurization and tax strategy,
Yeah.
right? So, in essence, what they do in trying to help you avoid having to pay the IRS is they basically cut you at the knees in the valuation of your business. And that is a big difference. The difference between somebody showing a net profit of 30,000 and somebody showing a profit of 1 million is as small as being able to tell you, your business is worth 1x, right? 30,000, or 2x, 60,000, or we put the numbers right and now your business is worth 2 million, right? Or we give it a 3 or 4x based on the real numbers that we extracted when it was actually amended and done right. right? That's a big difference. You work all your life working to get this business to exit to get 60 or 70, 80,000. That's not right.
Yeah.
All count here, right? And because nobody told you there's other ways to do it, right? So we start opening eyes, we start really being of value, right, to somebody. And it's not easy. People think it's easy to sell something, right? If
Mhm.
it's a house you can touch and feel, you go and you can get an appraisal and get a comparables. But a business is all kinds of different variables in selling a business. You can have a business in one city and another business in a block or two away, and it's the same type of business, and one can produce totally different than the other one. And how are you going to compare that? They're comparable industries doesn't mean that they're going to sell the same, right? The numbers speak louder than any brick and mortar per se when it
Yeah.
comes to business. And the numbers are what tells the story, the who, what, where, why, all those W's that we talk about. So I tell people, look, it might hurt to have to go pay somebody to do this. It might hurt at first, but when we start talking cost segregation, we start looking at all the things that could make this real, and your numbers start get put where they need to be. Now you're happy when we sell for what your business should have sold for, and it's almost like the golden carrot effect. If you take golden carrot and you pull it away from somebody, they're like, they're like, hey, I want this, right?
Yeah.
And I've worked with people and I said, like, you're not ready for this. And I said, call me when you're ready to make some moves and do these things. They're like, wait, what do you mean I'm not ready for that? I'm like, you're not ready for this because I'm trying to tell you you're going to have to make some changes, and these changes are painful. It
Yeah.
costs money, it takes time. You wanted to sell yesterday. You're going to sell for 4 or 5 times less than what you should, all on account that you don't want to do the work that I'm telling you to do, right? So you're not ready for this. You know, and then they want me to come back and get it done, right? So the golden carrot effect comes in.
So it's more beneficial to give Uncle Sam his dues up front so you can enjoy it at the end. Because I really follow the tech sector. The valuations of a lot of these like private businesses, and you find that a lot of the calculations in tech tend to be based on the top line and based on EBITDA because
Right.
um, obviously it's very capital intensive. Businesses with very high burn rates, and profitability is really tough in the first couple of years, but eventually it does get there. But you find a lot of
But,
businesses that
but
are
you
not.
see,
Yeah.
this is where having strategy comes in, right? If I'm in a box and all I'm thinking is EBITDA and all I'm seeing is just what I'm seeing with my business, just right here, right? But outside this box, I have this universe of other alternative things that I can do in the same time that I'm building my business to be able to build a bridge or a safety net for my taxes, so that way the tax bite is not a bite, but it's just part of my process,
Mhm.
right? There's a book called Tax Free Wealth by Max Wheelbright, and he talks about different strategies, right? It's not about not paying the IRS, it's the fact that there's so many different loopholes and ways that you can diversify and make the money that is going to get made without sacrificing that money,
Yeah.
right? Giving it to the IRS, right? When I tell you that I can get, you know, X amount of money and 10x it inside of my business, I'm doing my business, but over here I'm 10xing money, and that money is going to get taxed at 35%, right? Well, it doesn't make that 10x that exciting if I'm losing 3.5x of the 10x. But if I can bring down that bite from 35% down to 10 or 15 with some strategies, right? While I still keep my business doing what it's doing, wow, I just made a safety net to be able to offset anything over here that my business is dealing with, because I put some things over here that are helping me get that safety net, right? So it's all about strategy. But if I would have stayed in this box, I wouldn't have known about all the other things on the outside of that box that
Yeah.
are helping me with the taxes. The fear factor is that the problem is that our CPAs are not advising, not because they don't want to, they don't know. right?
Mm.
Have a degree or a designation to put your numbers and be compliant with your numbers so that you don't get audited and you're okay. That doesn't necessarily mean that's a strategy for taxes, right? That just means they know when and how to do your taxes so that you're compliant, right? Let's separate that. I'm not talking bad about CPAs. I have a lot of friends in the business that are CPAs, just like I have a lot of doctors, right? But there's doctors and there's general doctors and specialists, right? And I'm not going to go for brain surgery to my general practitioner, right? It's so why are we doing that with our taxes, right?
Mm.
Why aren't we thinking like that? Because nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody knows about it until we talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I went through it. I've been through audits from CPAs that have designations, right? So what that doesn't mean that they're bad people. They made their mistakes too,
Mm.
right? At the same time, I've had to pay IRS a lot of money, and that's a pill that I don't like to swallow. So I need to find other ways to be able to deal with that problem. How do I deal with that problem? It's not that problem's not going to go away, and
Mm.
cutting my profits is not the solution because I work hard for those profits. That's
Yeah.
why I spend so much money on marketing so that I can make profits. So
Mm.
why would you cut that? Like, why are you not showing me the money, right, where I made it, right? So it's just strategy.
No, awesome, awesome. That was really, really, really insightful.
Yep.
And and tell us a bit about the funding solutions that you provide, because I understand that you provide like conventional lending to businesses and
Sure.
also non-conventional, and you also do
Definitely.
provide advisory on the credit side of things, because that's
Yes.
quite a challenge. Or
Right.
maybe tell us a bit about like the algorithms of the credit
Sure.
system, because I've seen really interesting videos of how people can start with personal credit and eventually build business credit. How can they hack that?
Well, what's great is that, everything I've done to this point has been an evolution, right? When I started, I wrote a book called Decoding the Mystery of Business Credit. It's on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And I took steps over the course of time to delineate and show people how to build business credit, right? That was great. The problem with that is that it's just like when we were talking about working out, right? Give somebody a plan, and that's great. They put it over here, they never implement it, so it doesn't
Mhm.
get done, right? So then it doesn't help you at all, right? And that's what was happening. I was seeing that people would still, I would be in these BNI groups, right? Business Network International, and I would say, by the raise of a hand, who has business credit, right? And a few hands would go up. A year later, I would ask the same question. Those same people, would raise their hand, that the ones that did and the ones that didn't, right? And here I am talking about business credit, how to build it, and da da da. Nobody asked for a one-on-one. Nobody went into action, knowing that they needed it, right?
Mm.
So I had to get more proactive in the solution. I said, well, what if we put together a program that would infuse business credit, like almost like if I was a bodybuilder, but I was puny and I needed to get into the Mr. Olympia contest next month. How
Mm.
am I going to get from here to here in such a short period of time? How am I going to hack that? Right.
Yeah.
So we built systems to be able to fast track and be able to help companies fast track themselves, right, through our program. Right now, we can go the slow route, we can go the fast route. Either way, I'm going to help you, right? But we have to start with your foundation, which is your person, right? If your person has bad credit and the five C's of credit, um, uh, they talk about character, conditions, collateral. Well, one of those is your character, right? So if
Hmm.
you're and you're not taking care of your business at home, right? For whatever reason, I don't really care. We need to fix that. We need to be able to showcase that you do have the character. So
Yeah.
personal credit is a very important thing, even if we don't use it for as a personal guarantor in building business credit. It is necessary, and when we build business credit, it helps you even more. That you're one, you want to be, you want to put your things right, anyways. You want why be unbalanced? Let's
Hmm.
get it done. So I take a holistic view and help you from the bottom up, saying, okay, we got to work on your credit. We're gonna help you do that. We know that if I leave it to you, you're not going to do it. So we do it. We help you with it, right? We're going to be your partner in progress. Progress being the number one thing, right? If it takes us 3 or 6 months, it's inconsequential because
Yeah.
inside that process, I'm going to put you through a fast track as well, right? So as we're building over here, we're going to be moving the chips over here, and we're going to be building on your business credit. We're going to be putting things in place. Now, when we start talking about structure and people wanting to get money now, then we have that too, right? And we have very intricate programs built around the fast tracking for necessity, right? And so we would need probably another show to go real deep into
I can
that.
feel that. Yeah.
Understand that we built these structures to be able to meet those demands because the demand in our business community is there, and we took the call and we said, all right, let's do it. And it wasn't easy to put together the different parameters to get it done the way that we're doing it. That's why we call it the high level to high level, because it takes high level thinking, right? High level structures and ideas that are being done at the high level, and we brought it to the eye level, to the common Joe, right? So it's attainable. So it's easy to get, not easy,
Yeah.
it's accessible, right?
Mm.
We lowered the barrier of entry, so you don't have to have millions of dollars. And we work on success, right? That means we don't get paid until you get paid,
Yeah.
right? That's a huge thing, right? So when we work in that contingency mode, it makes you, well, it takes away the excuse, right? Because the number one excuse people have is I don't have money,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going to be like, well, you don't need money. You need to have the will to want to do this. If you don't have that, I can't do nothing for you. But if you want to do this, let's go. You know,
No, I love that. I love that. No, thanks so much for joining the show. And as we wrap up,
welcome.
what advice would you give to Jimmy, the younger Jimmy 20 years ago? Because there are a lot of younger Jimmys that are listening to you, seeking for advice, would like to be in a better position. What advice would you give him?
Number one,
Journey?
to thine own self be true
Yeah,
is a very important thing. You need to be real with yourself. Stop lying, stop making excuses. Let's get real let's be honest with ourselves, and let's start asking for help.
yeah,
Right? Let's get the ego out of the way, right? Let's get rid of ego. Let's get real and let's get honest. Let's start working on the things we need to work on to better ourselves, right? And I'm talking not just in business, everything. It is so reciprocal, mind, body, and spirit, right? If we can do the circle, it's going to come around and the reciprocity will hit, the compound effect will hit. Everything will start flowing if we start getting real with ourselves first.
yeah.
Once we start doing that, we'll be able to find the ways to better ourselves.
Number two.
Number two, man, you need to start getting a budget and a plan and start projecting. Start projecting what are your costs and looking at the big picture of what these things are, right? And number three, you need to invest. Invest in yourself, invest in the proper people. You got to build a team. Building a business is not being just an entrepreneur and having a job. You own your own job when you're an entrepreneur. Building a system is leveraging other people's money and other people's time, OPT and OPM, and putting a team together, right? Because we need to leverage as best as we can. We can't do it all. It's
Yeah,
impossible. We only have 24 hours in a day. Number one, we're limited on time. Number two, we're limited in scope of knowledge because we don't know it all, right? And number three, we're limited on money and capital resources. So we got to either make it, figure out how to build those capital resources, get with the right people that are going to be smarter and know more than us to help us guide us and get into action, start doing it.
no,
Nothing gets done if you don't start doing.
thank you so much, Jimmy. This information is very rich. I'm sure that there is someone who's gonna listen to this and become a millionaire as a result. I believe I'm gonna get there as a result of this. Thank you so much for this, and thank you so much.
Let's do it.
We got to do
I
a follow
appreciate
up.
you.
We got to do a follow up episode where we break down the whole credit thing. That's a very big
Let's
topic.
do high level to high level 2.0, and let's break that down. Let's see how when people start seeing the mechanics of how this works, I think they'll be like, hey, I want the golden carrot. I want a piece of that.
Let's do that. Credit. We're gonna break down credit.
All
Thank you
right.
so much,
Sounds
Jimmy.
good. All right. We'll talk to
God
you
bless
later.
you.
All right.
Take care.